Okay, call to order the Victortown Board meeting of Monday, November 22nd, 2021 to order. I ask that all who have not signed in, please do so. Please turn off all cell phones and other electronic devices, and please conduct any private conversations in the hallway or outside. Emergency exits can be found to your right and to your left. And at this time, if you please join the town board in a salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's time to declare the public hearing is hereby opened. And I'll turn it over to our town attorney, Mr. Frank Pavia.
So our first matter tonight is a public hearing regarding the proposed condemnation of a site formerly owned by Lord & Taylor, town of Victor. My name is Frank Pavia, and I am the designated public hearing officer in connection with this evening's public hearing conducted by the town of Victor in accordance with the New York Eminent Domain Procedure Law, also known as the EDPL. We are here this evening on the 22nd of November 2021 at 7 p.m. or shortly thereafter at the Town of Victor Town Hall, located at 85 East Main Street in the Town of Victor, to open and conduct a public hearing concerning the proposed acquisition, as that term is defined under the EDPL and will be used during this hearing, by the town of certain real property, again as that term is defined under the EDPL and as will be used during this hearing, comprising one tax parcel and approximately 8.4 acres in connection with the proposed public project, as that term is defined under the EDPL, all as outlined during this hearing. This public hearing is being conducted pursuant to the EDPL in order to inform the public of the possible public uses to be served by the public project and the potential impact on the environment and residents of the locality near the public project. In accordance with the EDPL, notice of this public hearing was duly published in the Daily Messenger on November 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th of 2021 as required by the EDPL. Such notice is hereby submitted and entered into the record of this public hearing as Exhibit A. And I'd like to, we could just hand that to the stenographer down. That's all right, you can still give it to him. Any person in attendance at this public hearing will be given a reasonable opportunity to present oral or written statements to submit other documents concerning the public project. If you'd like an opportunity to speak at this public hearing or to submit a written statement or other documents, please sign in at the sign-in table if you have not done so already. Names will be called in an order in which they are signed in. Persons unable to attend this public hearing or persons in attendance at this public hearing may submit to the town prior to the end of this public hearing any written statements or other related documents regarding the proposed public project. Such written statements or other documents will become part of the public hearing record. Comments received after the close of this public hearing will not be considered. This hearing is not a question and answer session. Let me repeat that. This hearing is not a question and answer session. It is instead an opportunity for you to present your views to the town so that they may be considered by the town when it makes its determinations and findings as required by the EDPL. A record of this hearing is being made, including written statements submitted. When available, copies of such record will be made available to the public for examination without cost during normal business hours at the town's office and the Ontario County Clerk's office, and copies of such record will be reproduced upon written request to the town and payment of the cost thereof. Written requests for such records should be addressed to the Town of Victor, care of Town Supervisor, 85 East Main Street, Victor, New York, 14564. Copies of the map outlining the proposed location of the public project and description of the property subject to condemnation are available at the sign-in table. I'd like to now turn it to Supervisor Jack Marin to continue with some introductory comments regarding the public hearing.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jack Marin, and I am the town supervisor for the town of Victor. Eastview Mall, LLC, for itself and or on behalf of its affiliates or other entities to be formed, collectively the company, has requested the town's assistance with respect to the acquisition of the parcel defined below in connection with the public project defined below. On November 8th, 2021, the town, upon consideration of the company's request, duly authorized the commencement of condemnation proceedings under the EDPL in order to acquire approximately 8.40 acres of real property located at the situs at the Eastview Mall, located at 7979 Pittsford Victor Road in the town of Victor, Ontario County, New York. Referred to as the Eastview Mall of the former and now vacant, approximately 93,000 square feet Lord & Taylor's department store and existing Lord & Taylor improvements, adjoining and or nearby parking fields and related improvements located at 700 Eastview Mall Drive, identifiable by tax ID number 6.00-1-12.600, referred to as the parcel. The acquisition of the parcel is in connection with a certain project consisting of facilitating the productive reuse and redevelopment of the vacant and underutilized parcel through municipal and/or economic development projects to further the public purposes of advancing the general prosperity and economic welfare of the residents of the town by returning the vacant and underutilized parcel to productive use by attracting and accommodating new tenants and/or end users, and thereby, among other things, attract additional visitors to the Eastview Mall, which in turn will promote economic revitalization in the surrounding community. Create employment opportunities, lessen development on previously undisturbed locations, and increase the property tax base within the town, and as appropriate, may include, but not limited to, complementing and/or advancing any public purpose contemplated by the Town and Village of Victor, New York Comprehensive Plan dated August 24th, 2015, which is available on the town's website and is incorporated into the public hearing record by reference, and by attracting and accommodating new tenants and/or end users to the parcel. Such action would, among other things, attract additional visitors to the Eastview Mall to the benefit of all existing tenants, users of the Eastview Mall. Increase sales tax revenues and decrease the negative impacts associated with large vacant buildings within the town and surrounding community. As outlined in the aforementioned comprehensive plan, the Eastview Mall is not only a regional shopping and entertainment destination, but it is a major economic driver in the community and provides the town and county and Ontario County valuable jobs as well as property tax and sales tax revenues. And by finding new tenants and/or end users to the parcel that attract the community and people from the surrounding region, such action would be consistent with the aforementioned comprehensive plan. Such proposed acquisition by condemnation of the parcel is what has been referred to herein as the public project. There are no alternate locations in connection with the public project. A map of the location and description of the parcel is available for viewing in this room, and copies are available for you to take at the sign-in table. Such map and description of the parcel is hereby submitted and entered into the record of this public hearing as Exhibit B.
You already have a copy of this? Okay.
Thank you. The town will conduct an environmental review pursuant to and in accordance with Article 8 of the New York Environmental Conservation Law and associated regulations promulgated thereunder, known hereafter as SEEKR. With respect to the public project, it may consider as part of such a review the aforementioned comprehensive plan together with any documents upon which such plan is based. It is contemplated that within 90 days of the conclusion of this public hearing, including the comment period thereafter, the town will make and publish its determination and findings in accordance with the EDPL and SEEKR as applicable. Regarding the proposed acquisition of the parcel in connection with the public project, this concludes my statements on behalf of the town. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you, Supervisor Marin. At this time, I'd like to just acknowledge that we've already received written statements and comments. One being a November 22nd, 2021 letter from Craig Leslie Esquire of Phillips Lytle, and that will be entered into and made a part of the public record. We also received a written submission from Eastview Mall, and that will also be made a part of the public hearings record. I'd like at this time to provide an opportunity to anyone who would like to present oral or additional written statements or submit other documents concerning the public project. The public is advised that a reasonable amount of time will be allowed for comments to be made relevant to the public project. Again, we are allowing and accepting written statements and comments as well. So if you have a verbose amount of comments you want to say here that are in written form, we will certainly accept them and make them part of the public record. What I'd like to do is start by calling the first person that's on the sign-in sheet. Do we have that? Okay, first person is Greg Leslie.
Good evening, Mr. Pavia, members of the town board.
Can you just please state your name and
Certainly.
stating who you represent?
My name is Craig Leslie. I am an attorney with the law firm of Phillips Lytle. I'm here tonight on behalf of HBC Victor LLC, the current owner of the property that is the subject of the proposed condemnation. My address, my firm address is 125 Main Street in Buffalo, New York, 14203. Initially, I would like to request an opportunity to review the submission by Eastview Mall LLC. My clients are here to address the proposed project, and quite frankly, based on the notice that's been published, we have no idea what the proposed project is, because it is not described with sufficient particularity in the notice. I would request that first. If that's denied, then I'll proceed to my comments.
Well, we just received those written statements this evening. I don't know if we have a copy of them available. At this point, they are going to be made part of the public hearing record. You certainly can review them.
So as a point on the transcript here, to preserve our legal rights, I will make a note that obviously anything that has been submitted tonight by Eastview Mall does not supplement or correct any deficiencies in the notice that's been published or the town board's decision to proceed with the condemnation based upon the record to date. And as part of my submission, which I understand is going to be marked in the record, I'll make that request at the end of my remarks. We have attached the agenda, we have attached the minutes, and we have attached the report after meeting from the town board's meeting on November 8th, which contained no discussion of the scope of the project or the nature of the project. And we're also going to submit a DVD that unfortunately didn't get labeled properly, but is the copy of the YouTube video that you folks put out from that meeting. So we'll be requesting that that also be entered into the record. I'll try to make my remarks brief since we have submitted a written statement. I don't want to read from it, obviously, and I don't intend to recap everything that's in there. My practice at Phillips Lytle involves condemnation law, eminent domain law myself. I'm often on the other side of this equation and sitting where Mr. Pavia sits on behalf of my clients. However, in this instance, I have to say there are multiple deficiencies with the town board's decision to proceed and with the notice that's been published. Those deficiencies begin with the failure to adequately describe the property to be taken. Although your town board resolution indicates that you intended to take all of the property, your notice reflects that you intend to take all or a portion. That's insufficient under the EDPL as an initial and threshold matter. The notice must specifically provide enough notice to the public to tell exactly what you're doing, and it must be consistent with the resolution. Here it fails on both points. The condemnation notice next does not adequately address or describe the public project. Under the EDPL, you must provide some degree of particularity about what the project is, not simply taking a property from one property owner to give it to another property owner to do something with it someday down the road, unspecified, not telling what the nature or scope of the project is. That's not allowed under New York State's Constitution, nor is it allowed under the United States Constitution or even the EDPL. The notice that's been published here does nothing to describe the project and its scope other than saying it's to advance supposedly economic or public benefits to the town. Does not describe what's going to be done with the property. As we point out in our submission, it does not indicate, is the building going to be reused and re-tenanted? Is it going to be redeveloped? Are buildings going to be added? What types of tenants are the supposed project going to serve or bring to the community that is any way different than what my client, HBC Victor LLC, has been trying to bring to the property and is able to bring to the property? So because the condemnation notice fails to detail the nature and scope of the project, it is also deficient for that reason. With respect to the condemnation itself and the proposed condemnation, there's also a requirement under both the United States Constitution, the New York State Constitution, and the EDPL that the project predominantly serve a public, not private, purpose. And here, quite frankly, this notice, this proposed condemnation, again, fails on that ground. There is importantly no indication here of a declaration of blight or any other reason that is sufficient to justify taking property from one private developer and property owner and handing it over to another using eminent domain. There is not, to the knowledge of my clients, and based upon the notice that's been published, a project in hand that satisfies that public use requirement, and that what we appear to have here is a mere transfer of private property from one private owner to another private owner for the benefit of the second private owner. The requirement is that there must be a dominant public purpose, not merely an incidental public purpose when you make a transfer using eminent domain. And here, there is no dominant public purpose apparent on the face of the notice, nor does there appear to be a dominant public purpose revealed in the nature or scope of the project because it isn't specified. For that additional reason, this condemnation would be violative of both the New York State Constitution in particular and the U.S. Constitution, and is not permitted by the EDPL. And we've cited a couple of different cases that talk about this. You can't use the EDPL and eminent domain as a pretext to take property from one person and give it to another without a public purpose that is predominant. Finally, we're going to offer some testimony. I'll describe that testimony briefly, but let me skip ahead to the secret part of this as well. Frankly, we submit that you put the cart before the horse. If you're going to have a project, you make a secret determination as part of the decision to issue the notice of condemnation about the impacts of that project, whether it's a type 1, type 2, or unlisted. There's no indication, and I think the comments respectfully, Mr. Maron, this evening demonstrate that hasn't been done yet. So you intend to do that after you've already authorized the condemnation of the taking. That, we submit, is, again, putting the cart before the horse. There needed to be a consideration of what the project actually is. I take it from the notice, it does not seem like there is a known purpose of this project or nature and scope of this project. So I can perhaps understand why you've kicked that can down the road, but that is also not permissible. This evening we have 3 witnesses who have come to town on behalf of HBC Victor LLC, specifically to talk to you and address certain topics tonight. They will each be providing written testimony to supplement their oral testimony that they're going to give, so we make sure we hit all of the different parts of this that are needed. The testimony will concern the property owner's maintenance of the property since it became vacant in February of this year, and how they are monitoring and keeping up the property. It is not in disrepair. It is not blighted in any way, shape, or form, not that there is any determination of that anyway. The property owner's attempts to sell or re-tenant the property, which remain ongoing to this day, and what they have done in the past several months. And the property owner's capabilities and abilities to re-tenant and redevelop the property, which we submit is equal to whatever capabilities or abilities the Eastview Mall LLC folks seemingly have brought to the table. And I would note in this regard, it is troubling particularly to me, and I think submit it should be troubling to this town board, that you have a private developer that has come to you that has requested you to take another entity's property, and neither this town nor that other developer bothered to reach out to the owner of that property to see if there was something that could be negotiated with respect to the use of that property, despite, as you will hear from our witnesses, open channels of communication between these two entities, and an invitation from my clients that the Eastview Mall LLC folks cooperate in this process. So, we find ourselves here tonight, we submit with a deficient notice, a deficient process, and an impermissible attempt to take private property. With that, I will move into evidence, or offer into evidence a written copy of my statement, as well as the video of the town board meeting, so that can become a part of the record.
You could just hand that to the stenographer, that'd be great. Thank you, Mr. Leslie.
Thank you.
The next person on the list is, and I apologize if I butcher the last name, Kurt Schneider.
If we may, our 3 witnesses are on that list next in order. If we could skip to Mr. Rogers and come back to Mr. Schneider, it's
Okay.
a certain order to the testimony.
Then Mr. Greg Rogers.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. I also just have, I'll put these up. These are just photos of the property to kind of go with
Are you intending to enter those into the record?
They're already in the exhibits of Mr. Rogers' testimony.
Okay, so they'll be handed in a different form? Okay, great, thank you. Go ahead, Mr.
Hi,
Russell.
my name is Greg Rodgers. I'm with the Hudson's Bay Company. I'm the Divisional Vice President of Construction and Facilities for the Hudson's Bay Company, otherwise known as HBC. I've been in the role for 6 years. In that capacity, I'm familiar with and responsible for overseeing condition and maintenance of certain real property owned by HBC Victor LLC, HBC Victor, a wholly owned subsidiary of HBC. Starting in 1985 and until joining HBC, I served in similar roles for Macy's and Johnson Controls. HBC Victor owns real property located at 700 Eastview Mall, identified by SBL number 6.00-1-12-600, the property. The property consists of approximately 8.4 acres and contains a former Lord & Taylor department store, which was previously operated by Latote. The property is connected.
I'm sorry, can you speak up for me a little bit? It's just a little hard to hear you.
How far back?
No, you can just keep going. Just
Okay.
speak up for me.
Maybe pull that microphone up a little closer, yeah.
All right.
So you're a little tall for that stand, so.
Don't be picking on me. So, all right, so the property is connected to the enclosed regional shopping center known as Eastview Mall, which is owned by Eastview Mall LLC and operated by Wilmerite Management Company LLC, collectively Eastview Mall. The building situated on the site is comprised of a single-level structure enclosing approximately 93,000 square feet. The Lord & Taylor store closed on February 27th, 2021. Since that time, HPC Victor has continued to maintain and protect the condition of the property while HPC actively seeks to re-tenant or redevelop it. It is part of my job to make sure the property and its value is preserved until HPC is able to re-tenant or redevelop it. As part of HPC's efforts to maintain and preserve the property, HPC utilizes commercial repairs and sales, CRS, to monitor the condition of the property and to coordinate repairs or services that may be necessary to maintain it. CRS is a national company that provides property maintenance service to customers including JCPenney, Macy's, and Petco, among others. CRS removed leftover debris and items from the property after the tote closed the Lord & Taylor store, and CRS continues to visit the property at least monthly and performs comprehensive top-down inspections of the property each month, starting at the roof, working through the interior of the building, and extending to its exterior. A few examples of the items that CRS inspects and checks include the roof, including conditions of the roof membranes and parapets, the interior plumbing and air handling systems, making sure the heating system is operational, and making sure all lavatory has water in the sinks and the toilet traps to make sure no sewer gases infiltrate the building. The outside doors and the entrances to confirm they remain locked and secured, and the loading docks to make sure the drains in those docks are cleared out so no debris is collecting in dock areas. CRS also checks for any signs of pest or pest infestation, and there are evidence of which has been detected since Lord & Taylor closed. CRS also inspects the condition of the exterior of the building, and although it has not been necessary at the property, would paint over any graffiti or address any other defacement of the property if it were to occur. CRS would also alert HBC if there are any landscaping issues at the property, something that also not occurred since Lord & Taylor closed. When CRS identifies any issues that require attention, HBC promptly addresses them. For example, approximately 2 months ago, CRS identified need for significant repairs to the backup generator at the property. HPC promptly made those repairs. More recently, CRS identified a leak in the roof, which we're in the process of making repairs to right now. In addition to the services provided by CRS, HPC is contracted with Cintas to maintain and service all life safety systems in the building, including, and among other items, fire extinguishers, sprinkler systems, backlit preventers, and emergency lighting. All these systems are maintained to code, and all inspections and/or certifications are up to date. I also monitor the temperatures inside the building using a system that allows me to check those temperatures at any time from anywhere through my laptop. I can also control the lighting and the HVAC systems at the building, and I monitor those systems daily as well. This includes the exterior lighting on the building and the parking lot, which is set to turn on at dusk, remain throughout the night, and turn off at sunrise. Eastview Mall has in the past advised HPC if there is issues with any of the exterior lighting, and although there have not been any currently, we've addressed anything in the past. Finally, the building is equipped with a burglar alarm system that is essentially monitored 24/7 by Johnson Controls. The alarm system includes door contacts and interior motion sensors. In the event of a break-in, which has not happened at any point since Lord and Taylor closed, Johnson Controls receives immediate notice and can dispatch law enforcement to respond to the situation. Based upon my many years of experience in the industry, the building is in excellent condition, as noticed today also. It is well-maintained, ready for retenancy or redevelopment when a new tenant is identified or a viable opportunity for redevelopment is identified. I'm aware that others at HVC are engaged in ongoing efforts to do so. The pictures that you see in front are also part of the attachment. This just primarily shows the exterior of the building, that it's being maintained and there's no issues with any blight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers.
Sure.
You can hand that to the stenographer, thank you. Do you want Mr. Adams to go next?
Actually, Mr. Schneider.
Schneider, sorry, Schneider, it looked like a T.
You did great with that.
Looked like a T.
Thank you. My name's Kurt Schneider. I'm the Senior Vice President of Real Estate for Hudson's Bay Company, the owner of HBC Victor. I have been with HBC since 2006 in my current role or similar roles. I've been in the real estate, commercial real estate business for 35-plus years in development, leasing, and management. I've got a long history with the property. Starting in 2006, I was on the due diligence team with Hudson's Bay Company's predecessor company that purchased the property. I've had a 16, 17-year relationship with the Wilmerite family on the property, and the property. Interestingly enough, when Hudson's Bay Company, his predecessor company, NRDC, bought Lord and Taylor, the previous company from St. Louis, I think they were thinking about shutting down Lord and Taylor. We purchased Lord and Taylor for its real estate. Okay, Lord and Taylor sits on what we deem to be very valuable real estate. Once we closed on the acquisition of Lord and Taylor, the principals determined that operating the company, could make some sense. But with that, the upstate New York properties, including Rochester, it was questionable whether they remain open in. A decision that was in the room was made. The community wanted the store to stay open. It was good for the employees. It was good for the economy. And, we had the ability with the other stores we had in different parts of the country to use our buying power to keep the stores open and give it a shot. So we operated, a chain that looked like it was going to go out of business in 2006 until 2019, to the benefit of this community, and other communities. Along the way, I've had a spirit of cooperation with the Wilmerite family. I provided waivers at no cost to the mall to hopefully enable the health that it has today. The first one was LL Bean. There's in each of these properties with the department stores a CURIA or a construction operating reciprocal easement agreement that controls the property. We had no obligation to, but Dennis Wilmot at the time, a seasoned pro that worked for Wilmerite, asked us for a favor to waive for LL Bean, which we did, gratis. Years later, a couple of years later, Von Mauer, a competitor of Lord and Taylor, came to us and wanted to operate at the mall. But there were certain variances that were needed and certainly a waiver from the REA. We provided that waiver for no cost. That's a direct competitor of Lord and Taylor, but we felt for the health of the mall and the community, it was the right thing to do. Most recently, 2 years ago, the Dick's Sporting Goods location was previously Sears, owned by Seritage, and it's not lost to me as I stand here today, that store was, that box was vacant, or that department store was vacant for 2.5 years. They came to us, and again, we provided a waiver that we did not have to provide at no cost. So there's been a history from our side of cooperation, I think with the town and with Wilmerite, and, we're happy for that. As I stand here today, current history, I've had recent communications with Wilmerite, with their leasing team, and on multiple occasions, talking about the tenants, of interested, and working cooperatively to identify replacement tenants. There was one tenant in particular, and I'm not going to name names, from London, an apparel store, that their leasing team was trying to get an answer from. I stepped in, and I got an answer within 24 hours. It wasn't the answer anybody wanted, but the gentleman who runs the tenant's real estate department used to work for me, so I was able to at least get an answer. I have access to, relationships in the business. There's also been, I think it's noteworthy, attempts to sell or do a JV with the Wilmerite family in recent communications in 2021. Unfortunately, we weren't able to reach terms, but there's been, discussions about that. Our leasing capability and experience, so in 2019, I had, I'd say, approximately 17 or more tenants of interest. The pandemic hit. No tenants were active in leasing during the pandemic, okay? So we lost some traction. Today, there's a list of about 23 tenants that could be interested that I'm aware of for the property. But again, we're still coming out of COVID, and decisions are made a lot slower than they were in 2019. But we're actively working. We have the ability with our relationships and the properties and portfolios that we have to get access to decision makers that a lot of companies do not have, okay? And that's what we do every day. So as far as, the breadth of activity, we've used those relationships to get interest in Victor that otherwise, there was no interest. We have local tenants that we've had conversations with. We've even engaged with tenants in other upstate New York markets to relocate from those markets to Victor, okay? So those conversations are ongoing. As far as our development platform, Doug will speak about that in a minute. We also have proprietary uses, like trading off the Saks brand. It's called SaksWorks. It's a highly amenitized co-working operation. We, again, developed this pre-COVID. During COVID, again, we lost a little traction, but we're rolling it out. We've opened up the first couple units. The physical plant at Eastview, it's 93,000 square feet. It's got great physical attributes for tenants that are interested in the market: high ceilings, multiple entrances, spaced out columns, parking. So when I did the due diligence in 2006, that particular property stood out in being single level and having those attributes. Purchase department stores, you generally end up with multi-level and lower ceiling heights and physical constraints. So we're excited about the prospects. Again, it's the market, wasn't favorable during COVID, but we certainly, have been proactive. The Coria, which is the reciprocal easement agreement, we are currently bound by a retail-only use, okay? I've had conversations with Wilmerite. I fully expected that we would get the same courtesy that we gave, which is some relaxation if we came up with the right uses for the property, and even got an acknowledgement from Wilmerite that a couple of uses that are non-retail would be acceptable. So we've explored non-retail uses and continue to explore non-retail uses. So I talked about the waivers that we'd given. So, I'm standing here today a little bit surprised, given the history of cooperation with the property owner and the town, that apparently the town and Wilmerite decided to pursue, a condemnation of our property without even a phone call. So that was surprising to me. It remains our intention to redevelop and re-tenant the property. And I am currently having discussions with a global retail conglomerate. Where they end up, I have no idea, but I am having current conversations about locating, as well as independent tenants. We had a tenant through the building last week physically inspecting the space, a local tenant. And about an hour and a half ago, when I was at the truck dock at the mall, I got a phone call from another tenant rep who told me he was following up that he'd be here in 2 weeks with decision makers. Whether or not the decisions are made or not to locate here, I don't control that, but we're very active on the property. So, I guess in summary, I'll submit my written statement that, at no time has the town ever approached me about the property and the potential reuse, which I would certainly be open to. That's what I do every day. That's what we do every day. We bought Lord & Taylor in the beginning for its real estate. So again, a little surprised that no one at the town. We have a platform, and Doug can talk about it, and relationships with people at towns that call us wanting our development team to work on their behalf to help revitalize the town. So we have that platform. So I guess in summary, I'm in opposition to the taking, and I clearly want to assert our rights to retain possession of the property, and we intend to retain it and redevelop the property on our own. So I have a...
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. You could hand the stenographer your written comments, please. Next speaker is Mr. Doug Adams.
Hi, thank you. I'm Doug Adams from Fairfield, Connecticut. I want to thank the town board for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'll make some brief summary remarks and then submit my testimony for it. I am Senior Vice President of Development for Streetworks, which is the real estate development arm of HBC. I've been there in that capacity for about 3 years. Prior to joining HBC, I was Senior Director of Development at General Growth Property, the second largest mall owner and operator in the U.S. At that, I developed a ground-up mall, 3 stories of 700,000 square feet. I expanded the Staten Island Mall by 1/3, bringing in movie theater and restaurants and entertainment uses. I handled 2 additional properties on the East Coast and ran the municipal finance department for the entire operation across 34 states. About 3 years ago, HBC purchased Streetworks, and we brought in our team of development experts for specifically this reason. The property that HBC Victor owns, located here, I don't need to describe it, it's been described a lot. The 93,000 square feet and 8.4 acres fits squarely into our portfolio, which is about 20 million square feet of space of either actively operating department stores or department stores that have been vacant or land that is in need of redevelopment. In 2018, the company strategically decided to sell the property, Lord & Taylor, to Latote, with the idea that they would operate it for 3 years, and we would take back certain parcels as they became available for redevelopment. And that was the plan, and they could remain in either their current form or a reduced form. Unfortunately, COVID occurred, and Latote went bankrupt, and it accelerated this plan, and we received many of these boxes back earlier than planned, due not to ourselves, but just to the state of the market. So we are currently under development in 15 different sites around the U.S. I'll give you just a few examples because I think they're applicable to what is going on here. In Manhasset, New York, we are bringing in retail and office tenant. We are already under development, under construction, taking the box, making it full of windows, adding fenestration, and so 2/3 of the building is already leased while we're under construction. In Garden City, New York, nearly half the building is being leased to a AA rated credit. That is an office use upstairs, and we are adaptively reusing the building. Stamford, Connecticut, we're taking 1 floor of the building, pre-leasing it to a national grocery chain, and then upstairs is going to be one of our own proprietary office tenants and one of our own retail tenants in addition to that. Similarly, we're doing a similar program in Scarsdale, New York. In the town of Westfield, New Jersey, we've been selected as a designated developer for not only our site, but 2 town parking lots located adjacent to the center of town, and we're currently working with the town in a private-public partnership to redevelop all 3 sites. As this says, we came in with 36 individuals that are strictly devoted to redevelopment and development of the properties within our company, which has tens of thousands of employees. This 36-person team is dedicated to this. As Kurt said, when they find tenants to lease or even partially lease, we come in and redevelop the building with our expertise. We have a co-working entity. We have several other retail operations that we also bring in. So we think we are eminently capable of redeveloping this property on our own. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. The next person on this list is Erica Cummings. Are you here to talk about another project on the agenda? That's what I thought so. Susie, are there anyone on the YouTube that has submitted comments? So there's a question, and I believe Mr. Schneider answered it in part. It's from Robert Perello, 1106 Pilgrim Pass. Is there a new tenant interested? I believe, Mr. Schneider, you testified that you've been making efforts with potential new tenants, so, but we will note that on the record. I don't have anyone else on the list here that wants to speak. Is there anyone else that hasn't spoken already that would like an opportunity to comment or submit a statement?
Just have one, it'll take 2 seconds. Dan McGuire from Phillips Lytle on behalf of HBC Victor. I just want to note one thing about the current status of the property on the property tax roll. I just want to note that the property is currently on the roll, I think at a valuation between 4 and 5 million, and that the property owner is currently up on all its taxes, has every intention to continue to pay those taxes while they remain owner of the property. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McGuire. Anyone else that has not had an opportunity to talk? Would like to talk? Well, I think that's all who have spoken, and if there are no one else that would like to make any comments, it's now 7:44, and the public hearing is now closed. Thank you very much. I'm going to give that to you right now. Well, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't hurt.
I would ask the board members a motion to close the public hearing and reconvene the regular session.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, real quick, moving forward, this Thursday, all town facilities will be closed for the 25th for Thanksgiving and Friday the 26th for floating holiday. The transfer station will be open for regular hours on Saturday the 27th. We have 6 town employees who are celebrating birthdays in the month of December, starting with December 1st, Nick Bodine, Brian Elmelson on the 15th, Mike Tilley on the 23rd, Keith Maynard on the 27th, and on the 30th, Mitchell Page and Stephen Bell. Congratulations in advance to all those birthday babies. All town operations will be closed Friday, December 24th for Christmas Eve and Friday, December 31st for New Year's Eve. We will repeat this announcement again at our December 13th town board meeting. Moving to approval of meeting minutes. Approval of the November 8th, 2021 regular town board meeting. Entertaining motion to approve these meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
I will abstain. All those in favor?
Aye.
This time, we'll ask our clerk to please introduce the abstract of claims for this evening.
Manifest 22 for 2021 in the amount of $708,113.50 has been reviewed by the Victor Town Board with the following accounts charged: General Townwide, General Outside Village, Highway Townwide, Sanitary Conveyance Capital Improvement Project, the lighting districts of Fishers, Brookwood Meadows, High Point, Cobblestone, Coil Ridge, Rolling Meadows, Stone Lay, and Legacy at the Fairways, and S&S Consolidated Sewer Fund.
Thank you, Karen. And as we always do, we like to identify expenditures that are in the range of or exceed $5,000. We'll start with our first payment. This is to Admar Supply for scissor lift for the Highway Department. Next is B&M International, December rent for our courts. Bluestone Creek Development for the December rent for Parks and Rec facility. Payment to Harris Beach for October legal fees. Payment to Integrated Systems for server and Windows upgrades. Isaac Heating, HVAC. Lehigh Hansen, material for multiple amount of road projects, one of them being the parking lot in the back. Payment to MVP for healthcare for December. Payment to NOCO Energy for diesel fuel. Payment to New York State Retirement for their annual contribution. Again, we pay this in advance the year earlier to save some money. Payment to into the Value Protection Plan. This is our sixth payment. We have four more. This will expire in 2025 when we reach the total of $100,000. And next, the final payment is Village of Victor for a pump station work for Piper Meadows. The total of the above-mentioned expenditures is $649,445.02. Total town expenditures minus the previous mentioned expenditures equals $58,668.48. Town board members, do you have any questions on this evening's abstract of claims? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the payments thereof.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next, privilege of the floor. We have Mr. and Mrs. Cummings here. 1081 Trevor Run, inquiring about the purchasing town property next to their property. I have provided the board members with, there was a letter from, looks like 1083 Trevor Run, 1090 Trevor Run, 1092 Trevor Run, and 1094 Trevor Run. It was submitted to each board member, circulated to them, and the town clerk has that. And just real quick, it is, we'd also like to inquire on the town legally being able to sell the property given its protected status. It is in the unlikely event the town can legally dispose of this parcel and also wishes to pursue a sale. Some of us may want to pursue a purchase of the land. We can look forward to hearing from the board. So, in addition, we have this letter, or this photo, all the board members have that, and then they actually had another packet that we had provided them with, starting with this photo and moving down to activity on the ice rink, under a well-lit ice rink, parcel shaded in blue, and then the actual property value on Encore of this parcel in question. So at this point, I'll turn it over to you two.
Well, first of all, this is my first time ever doing this, so excuse me if I'm a little shaky. But my name is Darren Cummings, this is my wife Erica. We live at 1081 Trevor Run. We've been there going on 16 years. And we're approaching the town with a request to purchase a small portion of that 13 and a half acres that is currently back there. The property in question, in its entirety, being the 13 and a half acres, was originally part of the Morel development, Camden Hills, and was, at the completion of the development, donated to the town in the spirit of green space, conservation space. On a portion of that property that is adjacent to our property, there is a pond. That pond is split between both of our respective properties. We are looking just for about a minimum from working with BME. The survey company isolated about 1.34 acres that would encompass the pond and put the pond entirely on our property. The reason for the request is the biggest thing is liability. And when we moved in and we started with this property, and taking care of it, enjoying it, we never really appreciated what liability would come with owning a pond. In that case, half of a pond. And with that said, came to light end of 2017, 2018, when due to the amount of care and upkeep we've done over 15 years of the pond, it became an attraction. And due to that attraction, people found their way onto it to skate. This pond is not, and was never built to be a recreational facility. It's a part of the stormwater management system. And then because of that, being on our property, we were required to, from our insurance company and the bank that holds our mortgage, to have an umbrella policy.
A significant one.
For our liability. When in 2017, 2018, when that came to light that we did not own the entire pond, and that the town's stance on the pond was that of skate at your own risk. We've never skated on it. We've never used it for recreation. We've just done our best to not have it be an eyesore. This purchase will allow us is to have our insurance company and allow us the control of maintaining the safety, eliminating some of our premium because we'd have control. To the town's benefit, we'd be taking the liability off of the town's plate, much like the pond on Lane Road that Morel tried to donate to the town and the town did not want for that same liability reason.
From our standpoint, it's really about safety and liability. We, over the last few years, have kind of consistently seen the pond get used for recreational use. And really what made us nervous up until this point was this summer there were children back there that we didn't even know. And so now we go to work every day and we leave the home, especially when it does freeze over, and it's not even contained in that space anymore. We don't know who's back there. There is no way to define the portion that belongs to us and the portion that belongs to the town. It's a moving body of water. So we can't fence it. We have absolutely no way to protect ourselves if something happens. And quite frankly, the stress and anxiety of something like that happening, I don't even know if I could take it. We do know from our own personal experience, the pond really doesn't freeze. His legs have gone through it. It's not meant for recreational use. And at this point, just so that we can, quite frankly, just sleep at night and not have to worry, we've had to kind of anticipate what the next activity will be back there. Just after signs went up recently, we had somebody try and hunt on that land and drag a deer carcass across. Successfully hunted. Luckily, every time these types of activities have occurred, it hasn't been with a serious incident, but it's really stressful to have to constantly anticipate what may go on behind there. We fence our pools for a reason. Your parks, the municipal parks, you all have no skating on. This is the only body of water that I'm aware of that is owned by both the town and a private entity, and the only body of water that I know of where it says skate at your own risk. We're just asking to purchase this portion. We will maintain it as conservation. We have never and will never utilize that pond for our own recreational use. We've never done that. We've worked with the town consistently when there's maintenance that needs to be done. We've spent tens of thousands of dollars on maintaining the pond, keeping it so that it stays healthy, obviously because it looks nice in our backyard, but also because the viability of the pond is significant to the neighborhood, and it is stormwater management. It's really, at this point, to just allow us to put no skating, no recreational use of the pond, and allows us the ability to have that stress off of us and to be able to not have this conflict of interest between us and the town.
So I want you to take a breath. They did very well, didn't they? I think they were nervous. They heard rumors about this board. I tried. Heath, Mrs. Cummings' point. All the ponds, we have, like 100-plus ponds in this town, and is this the only one that is a shared ownership? We have some owned by the town, some by companies and residents, so your thoughts, sir?
So yeah, out of over 230 stormwater facilities in the town, this is the only one I know of that we own half and another private owner owns half. There's certainly ponds and subdivisions where multiple homeowners own different sections of the pond, but there isn't another one like this, to my knowledge, where a private citizen owns half and we own half. Just a couple other quick points. So that pond is currently in our drainage improvement area. So we are responsible for the maintenance of it. It would continue to stay in our drainage improvement area, no matter who owns it. And we also have a utility easement over the entire pond currently for the purpose of drainage maintenance, so none of that would change either. So from my seat, this wouldn't really affect how the pond is maintained or taken care of from the town standpoint, whether we own it or they own it. That's really all I have, unless you guys have any questions.
I'm saying that if it was sold, that easement runs with the land.
Correct. Correct. So we would have the same access to the pond for the purposes of maintenance that we do today, even if they owned the other half.
That would be our intention.
Yeah, we would not want to change
maintain.
any of that.
In fact, a lot of those easements were actually put in place before Morel actually subdivided that property, which is also, designated on the town maps currently. So we would just maintain all the current easements and the designation of green space.
And I do recall the Morel brothers inquiring whether or not the town wanted to purchase a pond by the bus garage on Lane Road, and we said thanks, but no thanks. Right.
Just one thing I do want to note is the town board can and has the legal ability to sell the half of the pond. But under state law, they have to do so at fair market value.
Absolutely.
And I can't imagine what the fair market value of half a stormwater pond would be. I can't imagine that's a relatively large number. But under state law, the town can't gift property or sell property below its value. It's just a state law.
Absolutely.
So I just bring that up.
Well, in our research through the Encore, which is included in that, it gives the fair market full assessment value of just around 70,000, just under, for 13.5 acres. If you were to math that down to an acre, 1.34 acres, it's just under $7,000 for the purchase, which is what we were.
And I just raised that point. Don't take that as an indication.
No, absolutely, but by no means did we think it was going to be.
I'm not a town board member. I
Yeah.
just wanted to note that that's state law.
We were
Well, and I
not
don't-
going to purchase it
and
for
I
a
don't know.
dollar like the Lane Road one.
And I don't know what how current the Encore site is as far as assessments. This is 2019, if it's gone up, we're prepared to take that on as well. With the, just a statement, Morel didn't do any of us any favors with this one. I noticed that one of the pictures is of a playhouse. It is not a permanent structure. It's a playhouse, swing set. When my wife and I built, I walked out to that property with Jeff and Scott Morrell, walked the whole property, placed the house on the property where we wanted it to sit. During that time, I had asked both Jeff and Scott, I'm like, where is the property line back here? And there was an existing tree just to the east side of the pond. We pointed to the trees, like the property line's right here at the tree. Come to find out years later, Jeff was incorrect. I've made it clear from when this whole process started, with conversations to not only Keith, but Kim Casella, that if, the town's not willing to sell, this playhouse is truly an issue. It is not a permanent structure. It'll take me a weekend, a couple friends, and it'll be removed.
Town board members, care to offer an opinion, thoughts, have any questions?
I know that like you had mentioned, it's impossible to identify where the property line is on the pond itself, but in general terms, are the folks that are currently using it for recreation purposes, are they, for the most part, remaining on the town side, or are they just grossly using that entire area of the pond?
It's a great question. They've actually made pretty good efforts at, shoveling off the ice, sometimes trying to bring a snow blower out and clear just the town ends. But the way they set up their nets,
They spray paint, they set up hockey nets.
the pucks constantly
Pucks
shoot
end up on our side.
onto our end. Kids run out into the snow, have the puck go back. And this ultimately all started with the way our property is positioned and the access to that pond. There was a lot of argument as to how to get to the town property, the town's portion of that property. And currently on our property, and we were well aware of this when we purchased it, that on the western edge of the property along the private drive, there's a pedestrian easement. It runs from Trevor Run all the way along the private drive to the town property.
Where there was supposed to be walking trails and plans like that in the future that just never quite
And
went.
that access would continue. The one thing I would ask is, upon approval of us buying this property, one of the additions would be to continue that easement, the pedestrian easement, just enough onto the new parcel to continue to access town, for pedestrian access to the town property, and the trails, whatever may be back there. So, we've taken a lot of consideration. We're not looking to take anything away from the community. We're not looking to take away the whole 13.5 acres. We're looking at what Jeff and Scott Morrell should have done from the get-go, was design this with either the pond entirely on the town's property or entirely on our property. It should never have been divided up the middle and put us both in this situation of liability.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. It seems really foolish that a pond is divided in half. But to be devil's advocate, not that I'm looking to buy any ponds, but if it got you out of a liability, would you ever consider selling your half of the pond, or do you want the pond?
Well, part of the problem now is where our house sits. So when we first built the house, it sits on a very significant portion of the pond, and we wouldn't have put the house that far back, because now it would be, our backyard would be just an open park at that point.
Cattails and...
Yeah, well, and also we had set the house back because of our ownership of that portion of the pond. Had from the beginning it been, what, the town's gonna own the pond, we would have pulled the house further up towards the road, and we would have enjoyed our backyard, and that would have all been town property.
Mm-hmm.
If we give it over to, or sell it to the town, our house is right here.
Yeah, you're too
And
close.
here's, yeah, here's the pond.
I'm a visual guy.
Yeah.
I'll get in a truck with Keith, and I'll get up there and take a look at it.
Yeah.
It sounds...
This is just an
Yeah, no, I can see it. Yeah.
When we built, we had a choice to set the house a little further back.
Yep.
And that's what we did.
Yep.
We're gonna be looking at right.
This is your little playhouse right here?
Yeah, this is what Jeff told me the line was.
And it's really up here.
That's
Yeah,
where it
yeah,
really
yeah.
is.
Right.
Matter of about, realistically, 15 feet difference.
So you've had squatters' rights on town property, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm hoping to.
My daughter has.
see it?
And I think that to answer the other part, to answer your question, is we have really invested quite a bit of money, as I think Keith knows, over the years. We, with the town's approval, have pulled, we've maintained it with, so that the reeds don't get out of control, so that the pond stays viable, after over a decade of money put into it and making it look, quite frankly, the reason why it's such an attraction is because we've maintained it to look that way. So it would be kind of
Just a few-
difficult to turn back on it at this point, after everything that we've invested in it.
Keith has brought to my attention the significant investment. But he's quick to clarify that to anyone who asks, being outside of our government or in the resident, that this is the owner's investment.
Absolutely.
The town's investment. So we don't want
Absolutely.
people to think, wow, when are they going to do my pond?
Yeah.
This
Oh, no,
is
no, no,
100% our own, this is our own dime.
Yeah. But that's just a second part to answer your question about, why
It
we're
would
being
be difficult to
difficult.
walk away from.
And, I think, like I said, the biggest thing for us is, from the beginning, when the skating happened, I had a heart attack. I never let my kids on that pond ever, because I was so nervous. And to look back there and know that, going into another winter, we could be, I don't know who's gonna be back there. So I know there's certain neighbors that may have inquired about purchasing land. They're not the only ones that are utilizing that pond now. So at any point in time, this whole skate at your own risk philosophy means anyone at any time can. So again, our neighbors may know where the line is and may have done a good job up until this point, being respectful, but any new person that comes down there will not.
And to use my insurance agent's quote, the signs going up, the town just gave the community keys to our back door. And that liability, a sign's not going to stop a lawsuit. And it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when somebody gets injured on that pond. In stormwater management, Keith can attest to, it's got an inflow, it's got an outflow, it is moving water. Usually people think, man, it's late January, it's February, that ice has got to be frozen. But you know what also happens in that time? These salt trucks are putting all this salt down on that road. That road drains into that pond. Now you got running water full of salt, and people think it's frozen. Not a safe environment. And I would just hate to be in a situation where my wife and I would have to wake up every morning, look out a window, and remember an accident.
Well, so that's a great point. I want to touch on that. So public safety, so I'll ask the question, and either Keith, yourself, from a stormwater management and retention pond, or a town board member / lieutenant, when it comes to ice, would we anticipate that regardless of how low the temperature got, that this would really never solidify totally?
There is definitely flowing water from one end of it to the other. It's a very simple pond. There isn't even an outlet structure. The water comes in one end, and then there's a pipe on it'd be the south end. North end that goes probably 200 feet into the woods, and then that's where it outfalls. So yeah, the water literally goes from one end to the other.
Okay.
And that's where all the salt from the town and everything goes through too. So in the coldest months is when we have the most salt.
Just refer to salt, not town, for the record. Lieutenant, any comments?
Well, I think that no matter what type of a pond it is, there's going to be moving water. I mean, there's, you look at a spring-fed pond, or you look at a stormwater management pond, there are going to be strong points and weak points to that pond. And as someone who gets in a nice water suit and practices this, every winter on ponds around our town, you'd be walking across one area that you could literally drive the fire truck out onto almost, and then hit another point where a spring or another feature is deteriorating the subsurface of that ice, and you're going to go through just on your feet. So, I am not an expert on it. I'm not an ice fisherman, and I have friends that have no problem going out on ice when there's very little of it, and they're very confident in the data on, inches of ice to safety and safe loads. But, from considering the liability on the town and, empathizing with your concerns, I mean, there is water moving there, and I think, And to echo what Keith said, you don't know where the strong points and the weak points are.
No, Council Cusimano, great point about the liability, because certainly I think that's our role in decision makers, is to minimize the legal impact on this municipality, and which affects all taxpayers. So,
Do we know, on the town portion, is that conservation easement?
Yes, I believe so.
I mean, it says proposed conservation easement on the back of your property on the blue map.
Yeah.
On updated map, there's easements of all sorts on this property.
Yes, and if anybody's interested tomorrow, I could send you a PDF of the actual easement map with all the different easements. But the way I understand it is, the part that we own, we own it because of green space, but you guys also currently have a conservation easement on
Yes, sir.
a thin one on the back side of your property.
Yeah.
Currently, on our property, the only easement is the continuation of the utility easement that starts on their property. But I believe that if you guys bought this, that the understanding is you would have to have a
absolutely.
conservation easement on
We have
the,
no
also on the
desire
part
to
that
do
you're
anything
buying.
there.
Well, and I guess the reason I asked that question is if we moved forward in this respect, what does the conservation easement say? Because you say you maintain it, and technically you're not supposed to be, depending on the language in the easement, cutting or trimming, or, if it's the most restrictive one, you're not supposed to do anything except let it be wild. So, you talk about the cattails and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. I don't know the language of this particular easement, but that would be something I think we'd have to consider. Because if the language in the easement tells them, okay, you can't do anything with this property, you own it, but that's it. And it's basically like the invisible line.
Yeah.
Yep.
Means you can't touch it, depending on the language of the easement. There are some less restrictive easement language, which allows you to seasonally cut, right, I believe, and then.
And the
so-
removal of deadfall.
Yeah.
That is the current easement that's in place with Morel Development, and all the conservation easements and all the properties.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's something we'd have to consider, make sure that whatever we do, that's taken care of from at least our perspective, for sure.
And we'd be happy to
Yeah.
maintain that.
And then the other thing is, if it does have a conservation easement on it, depending how restrictive it is, if it was the most restrictive, then nobody should be on that pond, right?
Theoretically, yes.
Just,
If you look at it, the weird part about it, or the hard part to read on it is, technically, the conservation easement would only be on a portion of it.
right.
And that's the hard part, because it wouldn't really affect the portion that they already own. It only affects the portion that is within the town, so. It's hard to read when you go, and I did go over and take a look and everything, and you can look at that map 3 different ways, and I was holding it upside down and right side up and trying to figure out what was where, and I saw what you spoke of the property line, where it actually goes, and it's hard to figure when you're,
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's, but
So-
I think that the conservation portion of it would be on the back side of the pond, and it would probably, I'm guessing, would stay in place no matter what would happen, and that the language would, like I said, when they did that, I don't know why they split a pond down the middle like that, the way they did, but technically, the conservation easement, the way I read it, is not on your side of the pond.
Yeah, it's in the back, it's in the
Right.
northern portion, which
Northern
we
back
don't,
part,
we don't
so-
touch anyway.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
So-
Conservation easement is only the strip of land, it doesn't impact the pond.
It doesn't really come up to the pond, so.
Right, but just to clarify, the current conservation easement is on your property on the backside, which I think is what you guys are saying. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
I was-
but we can see that, but it's not, it doesn't go to the pond.
Doesn't go to the.
Correct.
Yeah, the pond itself. And if there even is, it's on the north side of the pond, which is the town side, which we'd never,
But to Ed's point, our utility easement might also restrict what you do on the pond in terms of.
we don't do anything on the pond.
I'd have to have Kevin look at it. I have it.
So we need to get some clarification on the easement and whether it's the restrictive nature of it, what level, degree
Yeah.
it is.
I'd just like to know.
Okay.
And then,
Yes.
so let's say we went forward and we sold you the property. However that transpires, it happens. Next winter, the kids that have been skating there for the last few years, they don't know any different. What happens when they go in the pond?
We would have to ask them to leave.
Right.
We would have a no trespassing
Yeah.
sign at
Much
that
like
point.
they did at.
Like anybody's front
Private
lawn.
property, much
Yeah.
like they did at, on Lane Road with that pond by,
So you'd post a property and then call the police if people are on the pond?
I'm not
I
going
would
to call
hate
it.
to have to
Well, I'm
get to that point. I
just
mean,
like-
But,
Saying.
Yeah.
I think it's, I like to believe in the good nature of people. You know, you kind of will express to the people, our neighbors and our HOA that this land was purchased for these reasons, and to please respect it. And our HOA is pretty proactive, and
Yeah, we do have an HOA that encompasses 70-something houses, so we can just put it out there saying, just so you know, this has happened, and
Okay.
can you respect? And this, like he said, before Morel bought that small neighborhood on Lane Road, that was kind of a wide-open pond, and there was skating on there. And then that was sold to a private owner, and they have just a simple no trespassing, and I haven't seen a person skate on there since. At least, I haven't noticed anything there.
Okay.
And I'm certainly not, I guess, probing to identify if there's been contentious relationships in the neighborhood, but, I mean, I assume, have you spoken to the neighbors about this, and has the HOA discussed the issue?
the HOA has not. We have got one direct neighbor. They had, at the end of 2017, 2018, it's to my belief that he misread. You went to the town, pulled our entire property survey, and much like when you look at it, and you're like, there's so much stuff here, how do you read this map? He assumed that the entire western edge of my property was public access, meaning the entire pond. When I enlightened him to, it's just the strip along the western edge, he proceeded to crumble up my map I got from the town and throw it on the ground and walk out.
So they were walking along the side of our house to go fishing, to go skating, to do
We're
all of
barbecuing
that.
out back, and they're walking right past our patio.
So we had to actually go to the town with our attorney to have the town attorney, I don't know if it was you, but we had a letter drafted explicitly
Yes.
stating where the easement was and where they could be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it hasn't been pleasant,
And then that
but
letter, he received that letter, and then there was a litany of text messages.
that's where all
as
these
you
new
can
signs
imagine.
have come from and everything else,
And,
so. It's not,
At the
it's
end of the
not
day,
fun.
some relationships have been probably harmed. But if it means nobody gets hurt on that pond, makes it, I'm okay with that. You know, it's gonna happen. It's not a matter of when. I went through it, the coldest February in recorded history. My one other neighbor went through it last year, and he went through it, and they continued to skate. These are young kids. I mean, we're talking
Very young, 5 years old.
5 years old. They don't know the boundaries, and they don't put wetsuits on and go into ice and understand thickness and depth and safety. It's just an exciting moment for them, and I get it. But there are safe places to do this activity. In fact, they're putting a brand-new one up at Dick's. So I guess there's better alternatives without putting us at risk and making us liable. Because when that does happen, they're going to sue the town, they're going to sue us, and we're going to look back on this moment thinking, wow, we could have prevented this whole situation. And that's all we want, is to prevent this from being a situation moving forward. So,
Councilman Guinan, do you have anything else you want to, or any other board member?
No, I'm,
Okay. So we need clarification on the restrictiveness of, or non-restrictive of the easement for the board. Anything else, board members?
Supervisor, could we, I mean, just as, the easiest thing to do, step one, would just be to remove the signs that skate at your own risk and have the town just prohibit that on that pond. I understand that still could produce people skating illegally, I guess, but it would be in the sense illegal and rather than a skate at your own risk. I mean, is that something that should be discussed or entertained and to see if that would work, or do we, I guess, just proceed with the, the...
Seems like a no-brainer, doesn't it? To do that first, I mean, at the very least, I mean,
I hate to, I mean, honestly, I hate to stop residents from, from one respect, they're recreating and they're enjoying the use of the natural features of the land, and that's nice. but there is a liability to it, and if the town transitioned those signs to posted and private, or, not, basically posted it so that it couldn't be legally skated on, is that something worth trying, and then proceeding with those individuals that select to disobey that?
So I guess it's kind of like our meeting we had before the meeting. Well, who's going to police it?
Right, what the
That's what it
question
comes down
he
to.
asked, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be the kids that are gonna be using it,
Yeah.
so are you then ticketing kids?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to your point, the areas that you do police, the municipal parks, they have gates that close at dusk, and you have security that drives around and makes sure nobody's in there. That's not the case where this is.
They bring out their own lights. light
And
it up.
again, we still have a responsibility on our half that still doesn't absolve this kind of,
Divide.
Yeah.
For myself, I go back to, for me, it's, whether or not these other town residents will be unhappy with a decision if we move forward, but I come down to, in our role, minimizing the liability to this government.
Mhm.
If we can avoid a potential lawsuit, then that's what I think we should do.
Okay.
We'll be in touch.
Okay, so we're going to get the clarification for the board regarding the restrictiveness, and I would anticipate that we'll be moving forward, okay?
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
thank you, we appreciate
Have
it.
a good Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay. Susie, public comments? Do you have anyone with you? Okay. Board members, in your packet, you had reports from the Director of Finance, Highway Superintendent, Town Clerk, and at your place setting should have been a report from IT as well. Any questions on any of these reports?
No.
Okay, thank you. I have a few items, as probably didn't miss that at the last meeting. I did see the, what are you laughing at, Ms. Clerk? I was going to give you I don't attend the meeting and everyone wants to get the meeting over with. So, well, first of all, I want to congratulate our town clerk. She's a new grandmother, a baby girl, Charlotte Marie. This is the first baby girl in a few generations for the Bodine family. So there's right now, I can tell you right now, there's a lot of pink clothing being sold at Eastview Mall that this grandmother is purchasing, okay?
I don't want to see any pictures of Brian in pink on social media, please.
Well, congratulations. So, what else we had? At your place setting should have been the October Farmington Victor ambulance call volume. I also want to mention that Mr. Steve Metzger is here. Labella has acquired a Charlotte-based architectural firm, Odell Associates, so congratulations. You continue to grow. And recently, the announcement of the Victor Central Schools Athletic Hall of Fame Class 2021, and we want to start by first congratulating the Guinan family, Matthew Guinan, class of 2005, being awarded that, and Ed Kohovic, one of your nieces, Janae Vanderstein, class of 2009, so congratulations to both of you and your families. Let's see, earlier today I had a DOT roundabout meeting, and the mayor and I had received some complaints from individuals leaving the village heading towards the great town of Farmington. Supervisor Inglesby, nice to see you, that there was excessive speed going through there. There was a rollover in the roundabout this past weekend, but high level of alcohol consumption really prompted that. But we talked about that. And I think right now, they're going to continue, the DOT is going to continue to monitor accidents in this area. The mayor is willing to commit a village solar radar sign about halfway between Church Street and Lina, because you don't want the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit too close to the roundabout, because in the roundabout it has a suggested speed limit of 30. So we don't want to confuse people anymore. I have restarted my weekly Parks and Rec meetings with Brian Emelson. This coming Thanksgiving, the Turkey Trot. We have 600-plus individuals registered for townwide Turkey Trot, and I know our town clerk and one of her deputies, Roxanne, are going to be helping with the registration. They'll have some registration on Wednesday night, and then they'll finalize it on Thursday morning prior to heading off. In addition, board members, I provided all of you with information regarding an email thread from
Leo Fisher.
Larry and Carol Fisher's regarding pickleball use at Fisher's Road Park. I anticipate Brian and I will have a conversation about this tomorrow and get back to you in the future as well. And finally, I want to thank our Deputy Town Supervisor, Dave Condon, for attending the Veterans Appreciation Luncheon over at Victor Municipal Park and offering comments. Appreciate it. I know how much the veterans did as well. Thank you all. Board members, do you have any committees you care to report on, or any boards?
Supervisor, I do have one question on the turkey trot. I guess I'm very excited to see the numbers that we've had. And I know that you and I have spoken, and I wanted to thank Victor Farmington Ambulance, kind of late notice. They'll be sending an ambulance to do a standby for that, so I appreciate the effort there. Victor Fire is unable to commit to that at this point, so as far as them assisting with some traffic or street safety type things for the runners. So I guess the question or potential concern is the capacity of vehicles in the village, and I've never been to an event in the village that had 600 or 800 people. I think by Thursday morning the registrations could be 800 people if we're at 6 something now. So vehicle wise, I guess what is the plan to accommodate 300 plus vehicles in the village?
I think this is certainly uncharted waters, and I think it's good luck, find a parking spot, and come to town hall. I be honest, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess maybe church parking lots, we have a municipal parking lot here, over by the library. I think people will get creative in the parking.
So I called the church. I called St. Patrick's. I talked to them just with Thanksgiving to see what their plan was, and they have 10 a.m. mass that morning, so those parking lots won't be available. So I was just kind of wondering, as a potential suggestion, just to know what is our backup plan, that if we really fill the village up, can we recommend people go, not too far, 10-minute walk up to the school, park at the school, walk down High Street. There's sidewalks all the way down through to Town Hall. That was the only thing I was concerned about.
Great point, and I think we'll work with the organizer tomorrow, and on Wednesday evening when individuals come in for the registration, we'll have a sheet of paper we'll give them as well with parking options for them as well. So,
all right, thank you.
Great point, though.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Okay, there's no further comments. Moving to the resolutions for this evening, starting with resolution number 1, solicit proposals for administrative services for the community development block grants.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Resolution number 2 is purchase a new pesticide sprayer.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Next is the resolution for the Town of Victor wage pay scale chart for 2022, adoption of this.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And number 4, adopt the amended 2021 special assessment roll consolidated sewer district. You'll see in there the second whereas there was 5 parcels that were duplicate entries. They have been taken out, total of $2,518.07, and it has the adjusted in the first whereas as well what'll be collected. So
moved. Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And number 5, transfer delinquent sewer dollar amounts to Ontario County to the tax pass. Total of $74,618.31 delinquent sewer accounts.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Public comment, opportunity for members of the public to care to address the town board, or if there's anyone on with you virtually, Susie? No one virtually, okay. No one publicly. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.